Nowadays, it seems like everything we own is branded with that iconic little logo. You know the one we're talking about, right? It's on the back of tech devices everywhere you look. That's right, we're talking about the Apple logo. Today, Apple continues to stand center stage as one of the most successful tech companies in history and easily one of the most well-known brands in the world. For a generation that grew up with smartphones in their back pockets and unlimited data on the go, Apple's products may not seem all that revolutionary. So how did a couple of guys kickstart a trillion-dollar tech empire from a California garage? Well, let's take a trip back to 1975 to the origins of Apple. You've probably heard of Steve Jobs, the one-time face and CEO of Apple, right? Well, Apple was actually the brainchild of his friend and founding partner, Steve Wozniak. Wozniak, an electrical engineer and programmer, designed the company's first popular microcomputer, the Apple II. After a lukewarm attempt at success with the earlier Apple I, the Apple II was a big step forward. Now, compared to our technology today, that early model pretty much looked like an old concrete block. Was this really the future of the digital age? Nowadays, the sleek design and minimalist features of the Mac attract all kinds of users. Back then, the Apple II became a first pick for amateur programmers and also found a space in many primary educational institutions. Its success drove the company through the rest of the decade. But by the time the 80s had rolled around, Apple was in need of its next big break. And then, bam! 1984 hit and things started to look up. 1984 was a huge year for Apple with the release of the very first Macintosh. Of course, the first Mac looked nothing like the Mac we're used to today. In fact, the younger generation today wouldn't even recognize it. Imagine trying to do a quick browse of Facebook or Twitter on that thing. It would be like hitting a stop sign at every turn. The first Macintosh model didn't even have arrow keys. This was intentional so that software developers would have to design user interfaces specific to the Mac. Back then, the Macintosh computer was designed primarily for professional use and for students. You would have seen it on work desks in university libraries and offices. Fast forward to today, and the Apple MacBook has taken the world by storm. Its compact size and user-friendly interface has revolutionized the way we access the internet, information, and even communicate with each other. People can have it all on the go. Not only has the Apple computer line expanded, but the entire company focus has seen huge developments. Nowadays, Apple markets everything from computers to smartphones to TV streaming. But back in the 80s, the focus was much narrower. Apple was still reaping the rewards of their Apple II release, but pretty soon, the company would face competition from the biggest player in the computer industry, IBM. In 1981, IBM had launched the IBM PC, and its success kicked off their rivalry with Apple. But another threat was just around the corner. By 1991, it was clear that Apple had bigger fish to fry: Microsoft. So Apple and IBM made a deal in which the two competitors agreed to work together. After a few more bumps in the road, Apple again found its footing in the 90s with the release of the iMac. The iMac became the foundation for a whole string of products that focused on elegant aesthetics and a user-friendly experience. The iPod, the iPhone, the iPad, these are the Apple products we know today. What started as a company creating functional computers for professional use has now flooded every corner of our lives on multiple platforms. Today, we have much more than just Apple computers. We check notifications on our iPhone or on an Apple Watch. We listen to music on Apple AirPods. We watch films using Apple TV. And the voice of Siri pretty much sounds like the voice of an old friend. You get the picture. Apple is everywhere. But hands down, the most popular Apple product is, and probably always will be, the iPhone. The first iPhone was released in 2007, and since then, it has become one of the biggest game changers of the digital age. As the first touchscreen phone to have a built-in music player and web browser, it really was the marvel of the tech world when it was released. That's because back in the late 20th century, our only means of telephone communication was through a home landline. Even in the early 2000s, the idea of a touchscreen smartphone still seemed like something out of a sci-fi movie. Remember when flip phones and phones with a split keyboard were the norm? Next to the Nokia bricks, the iPhone probably looked like some kind of alien technology from the future. So it's no surprise that the iPhone sold over 1 billion phones in its first 9 years. The reason is simple, really. The iPhone revolutionized the mobile phone industry with 2 additions: the touchscreen and the App Store. With multiple functions, the iPhone introduced us to the idea that we could do everything on just one device. Calling a taxi, ordering food, even filing your taxes. We can do it all with a whole library of applications right there in our pockets. And this is only the beginning. It's said that the average iPhone is 100,000 times more powerful than the computer used on board Apollo 11, the spaceflight that landed the first humans on the moon in 1969. Not only does the iPhone's computing power keep growing, but so do sales. Today, the iPhone makes up nearly 60% of Apple's total revenue. This success means companies today are developing software to move their services onto the App Store in the hopes of reaching the billions of iPhone users worldwide. With the advancement of touchscreen functions, Siri, fingerprint passwords, and Face ID, the iPhone is easier to use than ever. Almost gone are the days of the rotary phone and early cell phone models. Today, it's all about the smartphone, and the iPhone is king. But let's not forget about another huge Apple invention, the iPod. It's safe to say that Apple really hit the jackpot when it came to the iPod. Its creator, Tony Fadell, had first offered it to a couple of other tech companies, but both failed to see its potential. Then, in 2001, Steve Jobs stood on stage and announced the release of the first iPod. Since then, Apple has released a ton of variations on their original model, including the iPod Mini and iPod Nano. But nowadays, there's only one iPod that remains on the market, the iPod Touch. Back then, the original design featured the iconic scroll wheel and 5GB hard drive. Now, back in 2001, this was a huge step up from the clunky Walkmans and Discmans that dominated the audio scene. Remember listening to music with a battery-powered cassette player attached to the pocket of your jeans? In those days, you would buy physical LPs, tapes, or CDs from a record store and listen to a single album at a time. And that's where Apple came in and really shook things up. The iPod revolutionized the music industry and ushered in the age of digital music. Along with the iPod, Apple launched iTunes, which gave people a simple and portable way of accessing and listening to a huge library of music. With music becoming more and more accessible, record labels began to see its value over the sale of physical records in stores. The 5 major record labels quickly secured deals to sell their content via iTunes, and voila! The future of music was secured in the digital age. Nowadays, the iTunes Store is home to more than just music. We can scroll through a ton of TV shows, movies, music videos, and podcasts. Today, we may be used to downloading whatever content we want in a matter of seconds, but back in the day, for music fans, iTunes truly felt like a new horizon. Of course, none of this would be possible without Apple's iconic branding. But Apple, as a company, has had its fair share of makeovers over the years. In fact, you probably wouldn't recognize the original Apple logo from 1976. Well, here it is. That's a sketch of physicist Isaac Newton sitting under the fabled apple tree. Soon after, the logo was simplified to just the bitten apple, which first appeared in rainbow stripes and then monochrome. Apple was also behind some iconic advertising in their early days. Their 1984 Super Bowl ad has become a legend in commercial history. During the 18th Super Bowl, Apple aired a television spot to celebrate the release of the Macintosh computer. Directed by Ridley Scott, the ad paid homage to George Orwell's dystopian novel, 1984. Pretty fitting given the year. The result was a huge success. Nearly 40 years later, ad agencies are still trying and failing to top its effectiveness. This was when Apple became more than just a company that made products. They became a major cultural influence. Nowadays, people take pride in being Mac users, as this technology giant found found new ways to develop a cult following for their brand. So who knows where this all leads? For a company that started in a garage and became a multi-billion-dollar tech empire, the opportunities seem infinite. New technologies are paving the way for huge growth in the industry. Given Apple's expertise in consumer electronics, it's no surprise that people are talking about the possibility of an Apple electric car. Previous plans were abandoned back in 2016, but fans say a new release can be expected in the next decade. Have we seen the peak of Apple's success, or are they just getting started? Who knows? But either way, Apple's legacy will go down in history. We've got more. Just tap or click for another great video. And remember to hit that subscribe button and ring that notification bell. Thanks for watching.